Welcome to Let's Play Rule the Waves 3 as Germany, starting in 1935. It's 1947, and we are into the third month of our war with Great Britain, with the very strong risk that the French are going to join soon. The British are also at war with the Japanese, and, I wonder if Italy is going to hover around as well and come in and help. Last few episodes have been quite reflective. We had a look at the success or otherwise of our first major fleet engagement with the British, which went well. It was a victory, but could have been better. And so there was a fascinating discussion on admiral's reputation and how that goes forward, and how do you decide whether they've done well enough or not. And then we had a look at the submarine campaign, because in the first month we took very heavy U-boat losses, and it's led to a place where we are thinking of reorganizing the fleet a little bit. So let's just have a look through what we are going to change to improve the fleet, improve its ability to be deployed by the battle generator, and set itself up for a really famous victory. So first of all, I've changed the size of the dive bomber and torpedo bomber air squadrons. My hope is that they will be more flexible in launching airstrikes and also in being able to access the limited supply of guided missiles. I should note that the game has been increased to 1.0034. I submitted my game file and the problems I was having to the developer Frederick, and I think he's sorted it all. Certainly, I'm not seeing any problems at the moment. Hopefully, some of the battle problems will be resolved. So thanks for all that work, Frederick. I've started to replace the fighters with jet fighters. I'm not sure whether they will actually do the conversion this month, but we have something like 80 or so jet fighters. So if not this coming month, then the month after, we should see them deployed. I'm also keeping the old fighters, one squadron of jet, one squadron of old ones, because the old ones are night capable. And I'm also exploring a new turboprop fighter as well, because although our original fighter was incredibly successful, it is a 1942 design, and it would be great if there was a much superior turboprop fighter to work in tandem with the light jet fighters. I've separated out the carriers into two divisions because, frankly, that's how the battle generator seemed to like it. Although you can have a division of 5 ships, the battle generator was always separating out the two. I've focused the heavy cruisers to support the battle cruisers and the light cruisers to screen the carriers, making the battle cruisers a much more gun-heavy strike force, whilst increasing the protection level of the carriers. Excuse me. I'm so much better, and thanks for your kind well wishes. I've conducted some refits on some of the ships that were in for quite lengthy repairs, not for ones that were on just like 1 month, or not if there wasn't really much of a refit to do. I've started auto building submarines again, but this time medium submarines. I'm having done the analysis, and I know I only did it like 4 times. It was something like 20 experimental months, but you play the game, you know how long in the middle of a war those months' turns can be. But I'm now, I think, reasonably convinced, particularly talking to Bragon, that the medium submarines are much more flexible, as I'll discuss shortly. And I've redeployed the submarines according to these now new and exciting ideas about how to conduct a submarine war with a lot more intention and control than we used to be able to back in the Rule the Waves 2 days. Here's how I think the U-boat campaign is going to do, and I'm going to disperse the U-boats. Currently, I have 64 coastal submarines in Northern Europe and 36 medium submarines. Now, the coastal submarines could go into the Baltic, but because that isn't an active theatre, I don't really see the need for that. And instead, I'm going to focus on deploying these 36 submarines 10 to the east coast of America, 10 to the Caribbean, 6 down to the west coast of Africa, and 10 to the Mediterranean. And I'll be really interested to see how that goes. If we look at that compared to how the ASW forces of Britain are deployed, they only have like 3 and 20 aircraft, 2 and 20 aircraft, 4 and no aircraft, 6 and 40 aircraft. So really very light ASW forces. So it'd be interesting to see, as I disperse my submarines, will he disperse his ASW forces? If we look in Northern Europe, they have 100 destroyers and escorts. Now, obviously, some of those are tied up with protecting the fleet, but, you know, that's a lot against my 64 coastal submarines, plus 240 aeroplanes. I've also noted the French contribution, so another 25 destroyers and corvettes and another 100 aeroplanes, 32 destroyers and 160 down in the Mediterranean. As I say, I'm fully expecting the French to come along. Now, because I've dispersed the submarines and because I've gone to unrestricted warfare, the number of warships we sink, of Allied warships, will go down. So, you know, we'll have fewer submarines in home waters where most of the fleet is. There aren't many warships, as you can see, in distant sea zones. And obviously, we are hoping to sink transports rather than warships. If we have a look at the fleet distribution, we can see that currently the British have 2 battle cruisers or fast battleships, 5 carriers, 4 lights, and 2 cruisers, heavy or light. If the French come in, then they will add a very sizable force, and they seem to have concentrated their force in Northern Europe against us, which I take also as a sign that the French are probably going to join the war. Without the French, we match the British pretty well. So 2 battle cruisers currently. We should get some back. We've got 2 on short-term repair, 4 carriers and 5 cruisers against the British, only 2. In the Mediterranean, the British only have deployed a cruiser and the French only have 1 battle cruiser left. Our own strength is only 2 cruisers, but if the Italians come along, that's the grey, the French are the blue, then they come in with a pretty sizable force. And if the Italians come in to help, then I would expect this fleet here to rebalance into the Mediterranean, which obviously will make our fleet comparatively stronger. And if we could knock out some more of their heavy ships, then potentially we could lift the blockade. In the outer sea zones, there's really a couple of cruisers, 1 battle cruiser and 3 cruisers, another cruiser, and yeah, we've already seen that one. So, and similar French dispositions. And then in the rest of the world, Britain has 2 carriers and 11 cruisers, the French a carrier, 2 lights, and 4 cruisers. Now, bearing in mind that the British are fighting the Japanese, they are effectively making sure that Northern Europe is hotly contested, ceding at the moment the Mediterranean to Italy, and, you know, hopefully that actually emboldens the Italians to come in on our side, and they've ceded Southeast and Northeast Asia to Japan. So that's how the submarines and the surface fleets are currently organized. Let's have a look at the game and just zoom in there. So first of all, if we go to status, you can see we have all these ships on 1 month repair, including, most importantly, the Reichsgraf and several cruisers, and also the Otto Lilienthal carrier. And then we have the Graf Spee, 2 months repair. And then I decided not to refit her because that would have taken 4 months. And then we have the Blucher and the Prince Eugen and the München in repair and refit in under construction. And then we have these minesweepers, badly needed, coming along soon. And then the submarines, you can see we've sent our oldest submarines to West Africa. All the coastal submarines are obviously stuck in Western Europe. We've sent our second oldest to the Caribbean. We've sent our second newest to the Mediterranean, and we've sent our newest to the east coast of America. We then have a lot under construction for the next 10 months. There will then be a couple of months gap, and the new medium submarines will then start to come on tap in a year's time. Obviously, I'm thinking about this in a relatively long-term way. We have 100 submarines in service, and we have 40 under construction. And I'm expecting on average to lose about 4 submarines a month. And if that's true, then we'll stay steady at about 100 submarines. And if we do better, because we're deploying against weaker ASW forces, then we may actually slightly increase our submarines. Dock size has still got 4 months to finish, and then I will probably not increase the dock size whilst the war's going on. The unrest is still at 6. We are in a victory point lead against the British, but it's not a hugely commanding lead. Really, we need a nice, big, juicy victory. You can see here the French are at 11. As I say, I expect them to come to war soon, probably this month. If we look at relationships, just bring that down here and show the values, we can see that particularly important is the Americans, who are at level 3 with us, level 0 with the French and the British, 5 with the Italians, only 2 with the Japanese, which is good. We have 2 with the Italians and 3 with the Japanese. So I'm hopeful, because the Japanese are already at war with the British, they may well ally with us. And because they're at 7 with the French and the Italians are at 8 with the French, it could all, come together and we could get some support around that. The one to watch is the Soviet Union, that is currently at 8. I'd prefer them not to join in. Thank you very much. Other than that, I think we are good. Obviously, the monthly balance at minus 10,500 is something I'd like to bring under control a bit, but we have 80,000 at the moment. And you never know, the leader may increase the budget for the Navy. So let's start. And a cruiser battle, a large battle size. So let's generate that battle. And so we saw that we have more cruisers than the British, and they've decided to decline that. Well, thank you very much. That's very nice. A fleet battle between the Shetlands and the Faroe Isles in the lower Norwegian Sea. Okay, that's fine. So our own forces and their forces are pretty evenly matched. So let's see if this battle comes along. And yes, let's have a look here. Expected enemy forces, a full fleet, really. So can't argue with that. Oh, Admiral Neitzel has failed its command check. That's the first. I mean, he's a very good admiral. It's the first battle I've seen him fail. That's unfortunate, but never mind. Let's see how we are in terms of our forces. So our 2 battle cruisers, 2 heavy cruisers, a 3rd heavy cruiser. Let me just see. Right, because he's failed his check, we can't reassign him. I would have wanted to have taken him out of the 3rd Lenin and put him into the 2nd. But never mind. 1, 2, 3, 4 destroyer divisions, 4 carriers, 3 in the 1st and 1 in the 2nd, with a couple of light cruisers. We've got a lot in repair. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4 destroyers division. So I'm going to accept that. We're agreeably close to our bases and things like that. So that's all good. I think I'm going to attack the enemy ships rather than suppress the airfields. So here we are. Down here are the carriers, I assume. Oh no, down here are the battle cruisers. And up here are the carriers. let me just bring up my trusty old pre-battle checklist. So, bring this back over. So, time of day, it's 12:30 in the afternoon. It's the 1st of March. So, it's a bit wintry, and we can see that with the sea state limitators. So sea state limits ship speed and sea state limits float plane operations. Oh, that's interesting. Let me see if it also limits flight operations. Let's go into here and then look at one of the carriers. Speed limited to 22 knots. Oh, okay. So it's not saying that we can't use strikes, so we will try and do that. Battle length is set to 900. The wind direction is up here, is in the northeast. If we zoom out, so here's the top of Scotland. Here's the Orkney Isles with the British base at Scapa Flow. If we go from our carriers to their air base, that's a distance of just 270 miles. If we look at our own bases, we are 211 from Bergen, and if we go up to Trondheim, 270. So Scotland, Orkney, Shetland, and the Faroe Isles up here, and Iceland over here. Okay. And we seem to be sailing in a southwesterly direction. The wind is from the northwest, so these carriers would have to go up in that direction to launch their planes, which would increase the gap between the battle cruisers and the carriers. That gap is currently 80 miles. We set the game speed to ultra fast. We've looked at the order of battle. There's no specific battle objective other than sink them. Don't know what the plan is until I find where they are. Actually, if we go here and do the search malarkey, yeah, so it expects the British fleet to be down here. I would also expect them to be not too far away, if I'm honest. Also, we can't use the float planes from them. We might have to send some search planes from here, from the carriers. Let's set the cap. So whilst we're here, cap at medium, night cap, absolutely. So I think this is a nice little pattern. 4 planes sent 200 miles. Let's just perhaps push that out to 250. And okay that. And then provide cap to the 1 Lenin battle cruisers. Yep, let's just do that. And then I'll think about setting up some strike patterns. So you can see where it says Fighter N, that is still a turboprop squadron. Where it just says Fighter, I've asked that to be a light jet fighter, but it hasn't done the conversion yet, which is a shame. And actually, if I just go to here, yep, that's true here as well. We're still all using the Blossom Voom 147, which did a fantastic job, despite being quite an old fighter. So I can't grumble, but yeah, it would be great to get those light fighters into service. We've got 12 air-to-surface missiles on 2 of the carriers and 10 on 2 others, and then 20 torpedoes on each of the carriers, 18 on the on Passeval. So plenty of firepower to play with. As I say, I'll set up some small strikes just to have them ready in a moment, so that when we find them, I can launch a strike. I assume, because it says only the sea states are limited, it's not actually saying that I can't launch strikes at all. Set the cap. The roll of everything seems to be in pretty good order. So we've got manual control over the 2 carriers. I might just set the Passeval to be automatic and just follow. And the battle cruisers. And if we zoom in, yeah, we've got the Scharnhorst and the Lutzow scouting ahead. Oh, and with the Eisenhower over there. So 3 heavy cruisers, which is a help. Okay, for the strikes, I've just done an auto select strike and made them ready the strikes. We have no targeting information, so we'll just leave that as it is for the moment. I might just set this actually to patrol, and then that will keep roughly in this area, and we know where they are. And then for over here, zoom in and see what's going to happen. What's the recons taking off? Let's put that one out there. I'm surprised, actually, we haven't bumped into something already. So let's push this on 5 minutes at a time. Here come some of the formations, which is great. So we're ready to pounce whenever. Look at the time. We've got 4 hours. I mean, I have, of course, restrictions on what I can do. So in these 4 hours, I'm just going to head in this direction. As soon as we make contact, I'm probably wanting to take it this direction so that we head towards our bases. Over here, you can just see maybe a little red dot. This is the search aircraft that's left the carriers. We'll keep the carriers around here and then sort of see what happens. But ultimately, they probably want to go in that kind of direction to parallel the battle cruisers. So that's, at least for now, my thinking for a little 9 minutes. Nothing on the radar. And of course, no reports. I hope this is not going to be one of those battles. We find ourselves monkeying around and nothing ever happens. I'm just going to zoom in to here and take this off, keep it on patrol, but actually send them down this way and just bring it up to 20. No point going any faster, almost, because, you know, the sea state. I just don't want the gap between the carriers and the battle cruisers to grow too much. And then let's do some more. Right, so some reports. Now they're all 1 destroyer, 2 destroyers, 3 destroyers, and 1 destroyer. So around here, but nothing really of any great interest at the moment. I'm wondering about whether to take the battle cruisers and send them towards the top of Shetland rather than have them go too deeply towards the British bases. So first of all, let's get rid of these that don't really matter, because this is the one that matters. 2 carriers, 2 cruisers, 5 destroyers heading northeast up that way. If I go to my carriers, that's a distance of just short of 300 miles. We go to the strikey bit. You can see that we're set for mediums, and in medium range, our fighters the fighters are at light, so the fighters can do 250. So we are just a little bit too far for our fighters to be able to reach. But that sounds fun. Now, let's head our battle cruisers towards them. Yes, there's probably going to be some other nasty people lurking around, but that's at least an attractive target to aim for. This seems like a good point to leave this battle. My carriers will have to come down here, and then when the range gets close enough, as they presumably move up, they will have to turn in that direction to launch a strike. So presumably they also will have to turn in that direction once they've detected us. I don't believe they've detected us yet, which sort of implies that the battle cruisers really want to go in that direction as well, or maybe sort of more like this, in order to try and reach and intercept these carriers, which is all going slightly the wrong way from where I'd hoped, which was to fall back towards our bases. Good news is I think that the bases themselves may be able to launch some strikes at distance from their medium bombers. Ideally, it would be great to bring this force back towards Norway and the Norwegian coast, both to bring us in range of German land-based air and to make it safer for my surface forces and carriers and ships that get damaged and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I guess we particularly don't want to see the Royal Navy sailing out of Scapa Flow. So yeah, that's how it might go. Join me in the next episode to see how it actually will go.